Bonjour, Madame
Steven Goulet, enchanté.
Bonjour, Steven Goulet.
Bonjour,
bonjour et bienvenue au cas interactif. Préférez-vous les instructions en français? We prefer the instructions in English.
En anglais, s'il vous plaît.
Each team has 20 minutes to present its case to the judges. For the sake of fairness, there won't be no countdown. I will indicate the time that's left with the this. So at 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, and the last 10 seconds on my fingers. A period of question of the maximum duration of 10 minutes is assigned to the jury at the end of the presentation. I would like to remind the jury that it's mandatory to ask at least one question during this period. Please know that you cannot reveal the name or city of your university, as you may be disqualified. I would like to ask the public to turn off their phones. I will now invite the judges to introduce themselves. Je vais maintenant laisser les juges se présenter et ensuite vous pourrez décrire votre présentation.
Alors bonjour, mon nom est Nathalie Cusson et puis je travaille à Santé Canada dans le secteur du marketing sur le dossier du cannabis.
Bonjour, mon nom c'est Steven Goulet, je travaille chez Procter & Gamble Canada en trade marketing pour les marques Head & Shoulders et Herbal Essence.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Rodrigo Arambide, je suis consultant en management chez PricewaterhouseCoopers dans notre pratique en opération.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Xavier Kahn, je travaille comme gestionnaire de produits contenu digital pour les radios de Ben Media.
Gen Zs, millennials, and now narrowed down to young adults. These mystical, ever-changing generations that all businesses and institutions want to know more about. Well, today we're here to tell you the story about Kim, a 22-year-old newly graduated who happens to fit perfectly the target market for this case. And Kim, as you'll see through her journey, has been influenced, her perception of consuming cannabis has been influenced by the mass medias and peer, which has led to maybe believe false knowledge that cannabis, when you're smoking cannabis, it's just a high. Well, today, we're here to tell Kim that it's actually more than just a high. Bonsoir, ou bon matin, même si c'est encore mort. Mon nom c'est Emma, voici Kellen, Colin, et oui, c'est deux personnes différentes, à ne pas confondre, et Anton. Nous allons continuer la présentation en anglais, mais si vous avez des questions en français à la fin de la présentation, on va être content de vous répondre dans la langue de votre choix. Alors, why we're here today? We're here today to, we're mandated to open a line of communication within the next 6 months to help the 18 to 24-year-olds make informed decision about their cannabis choices. On top of that, we wanted to educate them on its adverse effects. With any strategy, we had objectives. We had a clear objective of decreasing the use of recreational cannabis for this market of 4% after a year. And then we wanted to reach over 2 million people from this target market with our campaigns. And all in all, what we really want to do is make Canada's population one of the healthiest in the world. There are a couple roadblocks, though, that could prevent us from influencing these young adults. First of all, the lack of education on the health effects of cannabis. Then, like we've said, the media influence that they have from cannabis. And then finally, the authoritative perception that they might have from the government. So today, we're presenting to you, it's more than just a high. It's a combination of interactive and digital tactics focused on influencing the young adults' behavior towards cannabis. We'll be doing this in 3 pillars. First pillar, passing the info, where we'll be establishing an interactive website, which is really a one-stop friendly shop for these young adults to come and get all their information for their cannabis choices. Then they're going to be more than just a high, which is the big marketing campaign set to educate this demographic. After, we thought ourselves, we're going to hit the problem at the source. We're going to take inspiration from Colorado and actually educate the younger generations, the 13 to 18 years old, by targeting their parents with a Start the Conversation campaign. Now let's look at the insights that actually made us think that Kim thinks it's really just a high.
Is anybody here familiar with tetrahydral cannabinol?
Probably not. You probably know it by THC. It's a bit easier to understand. Well, the most important thing is it's what's responsible for giving you that high, euphoric feeling in both your brain and your body. However, for minds under the age of 25, it's especially effective because where it hits you in your brain is the area that governs development, which makes it very dangerous if consumed before your brain is fully developed. As you can see to the right, we have a couple of fun ways that people choose to consume it. We have edibles, we have vaping, joints, bongs, and pipes. However, it's always good to know the short and long-term effects that people sometimes often miss. As you can see, for our short-term effects, we have reduced memory and attention, impairing your judgment and your decision-making, as well as slow reaction time and coordination. But more importantly, on your long-term effect, you run a serious risk of addiction, physical and mental harm, as well as possible brain damage. Although the Canadian government legalized cannabis, young adults should know the adverse effects that surround cannabis. So the only thing is sometimes not everybody is showing that message. So the entertainment industry is always showing the positive and the bright side of cannabis. And looking back all the way to the 50s, we can see a similar phenomenon occur. You would see a cigarette in every movie. Imagine James Dean. He's probably got a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, right? And if you look at the same time, 80% of the adults in the United Kingdom were addicted to cigarettes. That's staggering. And if you look, 41% of kids aged 10 to 14, if they watch movies that talk a lot about smoking or show a lot of smoking, they're more likely to smoke cigarettes within the next 2 years. Now for us with cannabis, that can be kind of a problem. Because as you can see here, before 2000, there were very few movies that highlighted cannabis. But as you can see, after 2000, it skyrocketed to alarming levels. And it peaked in 2008 and 9, which roughly 10 years ago. So most of the people that fall into your demographic were watching these same films as children in that age group. So this tells us that the government of Canada needs a new initiative to present a complete picture of cannabis towards its consumers. So the government is the only person, entertainment industry is not the only person trying to reach the young adult. The government has started to focus on teaching and educating on the regulations as well as the safety aspects. But then you look at some of the marijuana companies that already are advertising the positive effects, the health effects, getting with your friends, sending mixed messages. And it gets even more tricky in the home. When you have a parent that may use it or one that maybe uses alcohol, you're getting mixed messages and signals and you're not exactly sure what to do. So Health Canada must be aware of these different messages in order to gain the attention of these young adults. And so digging deeper into what you've already been doing, we can see that you're giving a general guideline on your Cannabis Act, giving the proper purpose of it and the health and safety distributions. You're also talking about how it impairs you both in work and driving and the serious long-term and short-term consequences. You're telling us where you cannot and can travel with it, as well as what are the differences in each province in amounts, labeling, age, etc. So if we look at the effect that we have seen in all of these, overall it has not been as impactful as you would wish. As you can see, 82% of people thought that using cannabis could form a habit, up 5%, which is good. However, when it came to driving, we didn't see much of a change except for in women, and we relate that to scare tactics. And finally, we can see that overall, there wasn't a significant change that you guys were looking for. So that told us that for future initiatives, it's really, really important to focus on engaging and educating these young adults for the long-term impact. You're probably wondering, who wants to listen to the government? Do they even want to listen to us? Do they come? Do they ask us these questions? Well, the truth is, they actually do. They do trust the information provided by Health Canada, but they don't go out and seek it. So if you can look here, we can see that the Canadian health system is above average, and they know it. But we can also see the proportion of people from 15 to 34 are no longer going to these traditional sources of news, and therefore we're not reaching them on the same channels. So they trust your information, however, they're not engaged with any of the education, any ads you're sending out, so it's missing who you're intending to strike. So we took a step back and we asked ourselves a quick question: how do we effectively reach these people? So we broke it down to three main things. We're going to meet them where they are, we're going to challenge their creativity, and we're going to make everything easy, because come on, this is a generation of one-click solution, am I right? So Healthcare Canada needs to offer an engaging and interactive experience to young adults seeking information on cannabis. But who are these young adults? The young adults are aged 18 to 24 all over Canada, and they've already got kind of an idea of what cannabis is from friends and family. Whether or not it's the right, we know that the best channels to reach them are internet, social media, and TV, pretty much anything with a screen, am I right? And we also know that there's no real disparity between the consumption of men and women. However, as you can see, there's a very large distinction between frequent users and non-consumers, highlighting the risk. So we asked ourselves, not a lot of people are doing it, why are people risking their health and whatnot to actually attain it? So we found these were the 4 main reasons that young adults sought cannabis, which made us think, what if we could really pinpoint one young adult? So Kim, as you heard earlier, is back. She's a 22-year-old new graduate, and she's seeking some information on how cannabis consumption impacts her. So she does what we all do, open up our computer, go on our search engine, and we search the answer. We shift through tons of documents, and she quickly realizes that not only there are conflicting reports, but there's a glaring bias in some of these reports. So she decides to go to the Government of Canada's website because she trusts them. When she's there, however, she finds that it's plain and it's really difficult to navigate, and because of that, it's not a one-click quick solution. She's easily deterred, and she picks up her phone, clicks it once, and she calls a friend. Now, despite what he might tell her, he's no doctor and he's not smarter than the government. So the information that he's giving her is misleading and false, which adds to the risk that Kim is now putting for herself. So it's really, really important for the message to be out there so that you can understand the full risk and the full impact of the effects when using cannabis.
Thanks, Kellen. So let's look at which strategy we should opt for communicating this message to young adults. Well, we look at 3 specific key criteria. And those were the total reach potential, the budget restriction, which was given at $500,000, and most importantly, the impact on young adults, and more specifically, the long-term impact. We don't want anything eventful or fear-based, for example, like the first alternative, which, yes, you're reading it correctly, offers 0% impact according to most studies showing that fear-based non-consumption campaigns on drug use simply do not work in the long term. Second, we can see that providing a supportive awareness and education campaign actually has the highest reach potential and meets the budget restriction of $500,000 and will actually impact young adults at a rate of 4.21%. And finally, having a Canada-wide education conference tour is simply too little, too eventful, and the conversation won't keep going. So essentially, what we're here to propose is more than just a hype. In the first phase, passing the information, making sure that all the information is there and there's a communication channel that's established, that's engaging, that's interacting with the young adults and finding out what their true needs are and what they want to know about cannabis. Next, more than just a high, which is a marketing campaign about getting to know the young adults and making them understand, educating them that the positive effects are not the only ones that are there. And finally, hitting at the source, where we'll continue the Pursue Your Passion initiative already launched, and the Start the Conversation campaign targeting parents inspired by Colorado. Let's look at how we're going to roll things out. Imagine this. Before legalization and even after, you go to a party, a young adult would go to a party, go with friends, and they would most likely join a circle where a joint is being passed around. Well, the government can actually be that friend who doesn't pass around the joint, but passes around the information before the joint is passed around. So really being fully transparent. Introducing passtheinfo.ca or passinfo.ca, which is basically your friend, your decisions. And essentially all the information on cannabis is displayed there. It's the one-stop shop, and it's the location of all future campaigns, so we have it in one set communication channel. And all this will be personalized and tailored with a specific survey per your preferences. Once you enter them on the website, your needs will be understood, and there is full transparency. So the government isn't just telling you no, it's giving you all the information for you to make the informed decision on whether you should consume cannabis or not. How's it all going to look like? Let's take a look. Well, it welcomes you to the website, passinfo.ca, where, remember Kim, 22 years old, she's female, and she's curious. Well, she moves on and she enters that the reason for this is because she wants to reduce stress. Well, upon clicking that, an interaction menu pops up and a question is asked. Did you know that a common symptom from consuming cannabis is actually paranoia? Causes you to be paranoid. So a healthier alternative to this would actually just have a 15-minute meditation session. And we're going to do this in 12 weeks, and just like when it comes to your health, you need to take the time to get tested. So we're going to make sure that the website is properly tested for all its features are working properly, and the overall security is there. We're also going to make sure that this information is passed upon to young adults. So we're going to go on social media for Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, and the message is going to be clear. It's going to be that new friend that passes you the info. We have developed for you an SEO strategy that we will gladly go over in the Q&A. And finally, how does this benefit Canadians? Well, 18 to 24-year-olds more specifically have an interactive and more informative way of having a safe, responsible, and healthy environment for their cannabis consumption. And the government of Canada can actually prevent unsafe habits, by predicting consumers' preferences for cannabis consumption. And now that we have all the information, how are we going to educate them?
Yes. So we've opened the line of communication, education. We want to make sure that young adults know that it's about more than just a high. Therefore, we're going to have a creative marketing campaign with digital, static, interactive advertisements and a mix of experiential marketing tactics in the public transports, and also linking that more than just a high with passing on the information in a creative little guerrilla marketing campaign. So young adults, like we've seen, have been led to believe that cannabis consumption is only the positive effects. So here, example, when you're on a site, you see this image on the left where it says more than just a high, and the person seems so happy to be consuming her joint, and then the curious user comes up and hovers over, and the expression on the lady's face changes. Also, the message changes. There's more to it, prompting the user to click and get to another site that says the other effects, the impaired judgments, the nausea that you can feel. Then you're going to do the same concept, but physically. So at the bus stop, this is the experiential thing. Remember those cards that you get sometimes, and when you're like this, there's one message and you flip it around, it's another image? Same concepts here. So people here go up to the bus stop, plus que juste un high, because you can totally put it in French, and then walk to the left, and the message changes. C'est aussi un lot. Also, we're using a QR code here because it's very young adults. We love to just scan things with our phone. We're super intrigued when it's like that. So it's really all around public transports in the big city around Canada. Now, linking that, passing the information and more than just a high, this is the little momentarily guerrilla marketing campaign where, imagine this, you have police officers in areas around big cities targeting young adults. Obviously, they can target any other consumers. They're just going to be walking around, having a little piece of paper in their pocket, and then they're going to target a young adult and make like they're passing a joint. First, if you're a consumer, you're taking back, you're like, what is this? Kind of police officer giving me something not so legit. And then you can see on the paper, it actually says it's more than just a high, and you realize it's just a piece of paper that you can unroll. So you look into it, it's also impaired judgments. So find out more and pass the info. It's really just this like little thing that says, oh, I have this authoritative figure that's a friend and that's passing me the info instead of, passing me just the high. So now that we've seen that we can communicate with the 18 to 24-year-olds and we can also do a marketing campaign targeting them, we thought, what's the really big problem? We have to really hit people. We know that treatment without prevention is simply unsustainable. This is why we need to hit people at the source, that younger generation, that crowd of 13 to 16-year-olds. And you guys have already been doing this very well with Pursue Your Passion. So we've told you, continue Pursue Your Passion. But what you can add on to that is lessons from Colorado. Colorado has been actively targeting parents to start a conversation with their kids. And like we've seen when they did so, the consumption has drastically been decreased. Therefore, we're bringing this to Canada with a Start a Conversation with Your Kids campaign, targeting the parents and the guardians of the younger crowds on TV, social media, pamphlets that really says, you can start a conversation and we're here to help you do so. Now, let's look at how much this is going to cost.
Right, so we're given a very meager budget, So really force our creativity, and that's where Emma really shined. So we got on our 3 phases, which was pressing the info more than just a high and hitting it at the source, which came out to about $494,000. The average reach of this campaign was about 73%, and the average engagement rate was that of 88%. Thank you. And about that, we managed to gauge about 200,000 and 75,000 young adults that will be engaged via our different tactics. Now, what's that all going to mean for Health Canada? Well, this means we're going to get an additional 25 million impressions from your already 69 million impressions that you've already garnered within the last 2 years, which will be acquiring and converting and educating about 114 new KIMs. So we've outlined our 3 conversion rates, or new converted KIMs. So in the first phase, pushing the info, we'll be highlighting about 8,000 new KIMs. And then for more than just a high, this is where the bulk of our tactics are. We believe that we can really get about 900,000 new KIMs and finally hitting it at the source, where we're pushing the education and educating all of our new consumers and our younger consumers and future adults in the cannabis market, that we can educate about 36,000, leaving us about an acquisition cost of young adults of $3.43. Now, with every strategy comes risks, and we've highlighted 3 risks. The first one is that the target consumers are losing engagement. Our tactics are losing their edge, and they're not becoming as effective as they were. So we came up with a mitigation to repackage the messages and really make them dynamic so that it's always something new and fresh, and it's always capturing their attention. Second, the campaign goes over budget. Well, we'll reduce the scope of the costly advertisings, which would be the traditional medias, so that we can really push the more digital ones and the more creative ones, like the guerrilla marketing that Emma's highlighted. And finally, the website is not operational by the 12th week. Well, we'll mandate our timely updates and are in place to provide the necessary requirements and timelines so that that website can be operational by the 3rd month. So now, bringing it back, why were we here today? Well, we were here today to give a communication and education platform for Health Canada so that they can educate all of our KIMs. Thank you very much. We look forward to questions.
So I have one here. One of the first things that pops out in your marketing tactics is that there's no influencers. Is there a reason why you're not including influencers in your plan?
I think the main reason we were scared with influencers is because the government of Canada really wants to be transparent, and it has to be really careful to who it associates with, correct? So influencers in this case, young adults, you can partner up with maybe Michael Phelps one day and think he's so great for all these messages, and the next day, you know, it's out the window. So it's a risky thing to do for the government, and we also thought that these initiatives that we've outlined are going to be effective enough for our target market.
I have a few questions. And by the way, great presentation. You guys did awesome work. I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
So I'm just curious, your second slide on the decrease, the 4% decrease in the use of recreational cannabis. I'm just curious how you came about that percentage.
Sure. So the 4% is actually related to the people filling out the surveys and becoming educated about the risks when it came to the behavior related to cannabis. I can walk you through our funnel if you'd like.
This is hard to look confident from this.
Right, so these are the 3 phases, or the 3 tactics that we've highlighted, and these would be the amounts of dollars, impressions, the reach averages for each tactic, reach engagement, and then the conversion, giving us about 144,000 KIMs, or young adults. And this is just the amount divided by the total market size of 18 to 24-year-olds, which gives us about a 4%, give or take, target market.
Nice.
Thank you.
Great.
I'm just gonna, I was gonna.
Sorry, 75.
Just looking at impressions, how did you calculate that? Did you base it on industry average? Did you base it from a source? Like, where does that come from?
Sure, I can walk you through my assumptions if you'd like.
Yes, we have a lot.
Right, so most of these are industry averages, and give or take it was 1,000 clicks per impression, and then it was just using the averages of impression into engagement into conversion, giving us those numbers.
Okay, so a few more questions. And so I was just wondering if you took into consideration the many websites that are already existing on cannabis. There's provincial awareness happening, federal, of course, as you know. So I'm just curious because you're proposing to create another source of information. And I'm just wondering how you're going to come up with this. How are you going to make sure that that website stands out more than others?
What we really want to do is take all the information from that website, because you're right, it's on multiple different websites. It's very difficult to find exactly what you're looking for. So we want to kind of compile it all into one easy to navigate area. Like when we were referring to navigating Health Canada's website before, so a lot of hyperlinks, drop-down menus, you get lost all of a sudden, you get redirected. So we're trying to create a one-stop destination for these young adults.
And how do you make sure, how will you ensure that over time people will still continue to go?
So with, obviously, we won't be able to educate everybody with this. We hope that we can at least reach everybody, but whether or not they will listen, that's something else to tell. But that's not the only function. As we said, we have, what's the other initiative we have?
The marketing campaign, the More Than Just I? Or
No, the Pursuit one.
Pursue Your Passion, yes. So, yes, Pursue Your Passion, essentially, like all the various government websites, we really want it all to be nested under this new Pass the Info website. So all the info on the official government site is now on this website. The Pursue Your Passion is now a tab on that website. So it's really, everything is on that website. It's kind of the éducalcool of cannabis.
And that QR code that we have on our advertisements, that brings you to the website with the papers that we hand out with you. It directs you to the website. So as long as all these are still there, we will still be attracting anybody who's curious.
Okay. And that's a great segue actually, because I had a question about QR codes. So I wasn't under the impression that QR codes are kind of dead, like dead technology. Yeah. So I'm just curious why you're suggesting that. Do you have any stats, insights on QR code usage?
The reason we went mainly with QR codes is that we see that a lot of new cannabis companies are advertising with just one word. For example, Tweed has an advertisement, a billboard advertisement that just says hi. So by having something that is impactful and something that can relate to a young person that's technology and just, I have no idea what they're talking about, you're going to want to go and check it out. So it's just an easy way of going to check it out instead of just spelling it in your phone.
And also, a question about the website, because you made a reference with éducalcool, who has the word alcohol inside. Do you think there's a risk of not having a word referring to cannabis in the name of the website, and how do you think people will associate cannabis to that?
Sure. Okay, perfect. So the way we're going to actually make sure that it makes it up its way on the Google ladder is through search engine optimization, or SEO. Now, these are some of the popular Google searches and the words and phrases that people usually associate on Google, and this is actually the rankings. So we actually spent a lot of time going through how Health Canada is positioned within the Google landscape, and we've ranked them and actually gave some recommendations so this is Wikipedia, which when you just Google cannabis, it's the first one that pops up. And these are some of the words that pop up the most. This is the second one, and Health Canada, if we compare the amount of hits for each word, so health, effect, or cannabis, it actually ranks lower. And when we're looking at phrases that are combined, it actually did manage to match either the first two leaders. So by really focusing on the messaging of those two words in that website, it'll boost up instead of just having it in the URL itself.
But are you going to do only SEO or also SEM?
So just SEO at first. Okay. You actually currently do SEM on Health Canada, highlighted here. So it'd be conflicting if your own messaging was trying to cannibalize its own marketing sales.
Okay. Another question. So I really like your aspect of targeting the parents, so they can also provide education to their kids right before they enter the market. So how are you going to target the parents? Because it seems to be quite of a large group.
Yes. Yeah.
How are you going to achieve that?
Quickly, yes. So we have a small marketing effort. So it's going to be a series. We're going to produce a video that's going to be on TV as well as pamphlets and social media. It's really we're banking on this social media campaign being start the conversation with all these images of parents with their kids, and also we can use a little bit more of the fear tactics with parents because they're so concerned and they love their kids so much that when they see the impact on their kids, the more negative ones, they're very compelled compared to the youngers. So this marketing campaign is much different than the other one. So what we're hoping is that the younger generation really hooks onto that marketing campaign, and this one it's just all about starting the conversation with your children, and those images that are as impactful about your children having these negative effects will prompt the parents to want to start a conversation. And on the website there's going to be a tab as well with all the information that you need to start a right conversation with your child.
Is all these TV, social media, and pamphlets including the budget?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So the parents campaign is going to live under it's more than just a high.
No.
Actually,
It's
actually
gonna be
think it's
separate.
interlinked to pass the info.ca.
Okay.
And all future campaigns will be linked there, so you have a one-stop shop for all information and also all the future campaigns,
Okay.
and to keep the message going.
Okay. So on a timing standpoint, can you tell me more about, let's say, next 6 months, what it looks like?
Right.
Like
so,
like the
So-
schedule of
So
what you-
developing the website, the preferences of the users going onto the website, trying to see what they're trying to look for to
Yep.
be more engaging. That's actually going to take 3 months. However, and within those 3 months, we're actually going to be planning the campaign, making sure that there's word of mouth, social media ads, and then for the next following the first 3 months, then you have the other campaigns that we have.
So,
Yeah.
I have a question, maybe.
thanks.
There's still time for one last question.
Okay. I have a question maybe regarding your police tactic with guerrilla marketing. Do you think maybe that could be perceived wrongly by the police body in itself? We know we have a very strong police body in Canada that's very respected, and portraying them as passing some kind of illicit thing could be received very negatively and create some backlash. Did you consider that into your...
Yes, so making it clear, it's like people dressed as police,
Yes,
not the police
absolutely.
doing this. And it's actually all about, this is what we want, right? This is the message, our whole messaging about the government is no longer the authoritative figure. They're your friend that passes the info. Yes, it's quirky, it's who, but this is what we want. We want this reaction that they're here to pass you. We're not telling you don't smoke weed. This is not what we're telling you. We're telling you all the information you need to need. No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Merci.
Merci.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.